Wow. The biggest move. This may be one of the biggest moves in trade deadline history. But as we all know, James Harden and Paul Millsap have both been traded to the Philadelphia 76ers in exchange for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, and Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round picks. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. A trade that many of us just envisioned actually really came into reality. James Harden literally got traded for Ben Simmons. And well, I want to first off by starting off by saying all know that both teams basically won this trade for right now. For the 76ers, it puts them in a win-now situation. Having James Harden on their team is going to be a huge plus for them. You're getting a guy who at his best is still can be one of the best players in the NBA. I think that just this season was just a really up and down season for him in Brooklyn, and now getting him that opportunity to really prove himself and show himself who he is going to really be a huge fit on this 76ers team. You're adding a guy who's going to help them win now, and on top of that, Joel Embiid is having the best season of his career. There's a chance that he might win an MVP, so why not hit on the momentum of that already by adding one of the best players in the league in James Harden? As we all know, last season, literally, James Harden played like the best player on the Brooklyn Nets. He was the guy who was really making the Brooklyn Nets who they were last year. It was primarily due to his play. Yes, he's gone through some injuries and some out of shape stuff, in shape, out of shape. But, I think James Harden, he's just really been committed to trying to win an NBA championship. And now he gets that opportunity with Joel Embiid. Now, one thing that's really going to be interesting to see is, though, for these guys is that, they can't waste any time. They have to really find the fit now. Because, James Harden, for his really, since his prime being in Houston, he's never really played with a center like Joel Embiid. He always had who? Clint Capella. And Clint Capella was a great lob threat, a rebounder. He did his part for that Houston Rockets team with Clint Capella. But now he's getting a guy who's completely opposite, who's probably one of the best defenders in the NBA. But not only that, but he's playing with a guy who can also at a center position shoot the three-point ball. He's not your typical center who's gonna do your typical pick and roll and get easy dunks or stuff like that, alley-oops. He's not just going to provide that for the 76ers. As you all know, he's a really great shooter himself in Joel Embiid. So it's going to definitely be really, unique to see how these two guys, they fit together. And I believe that they will definitely make it work, especially for, winning an NBA championship this season. It does suck that they lost Seth Curry, who was a really great addition to their team, but they still got James Harden, of course. And, not to mention, they still have Tyrese Maxey and Matisse Thybulle. And having Matisse Thybulle was a huge addition still to this team because he provides amazing defense for this roster. And he's definitely going to help them out on that end. And especially keep them off the slack off of James Harden and Tyrese Maxey as well, who is still another great player on this team that is going to take the load off of Harden at times. Of course, not to mention, you still have Tobias Harris, who's still a very good player as well for the 76ers team. So for this, the 76ers, it puts them basically in a situation to win now. They got Harden, and now it's about really getting that chemistry on point with only a few months left until the playoffs start. So really, things are going to have to be popping. And for the 76ers, they are going to have to really worry about in the future, really about how they do their contracts, because, James Harden is probably going to get re-signed, especially if they possibly win this season. And there's a good chance, if Harden is the Harden that we know, this team can most likely go to the NBA Finals with the level of talent that they have on their roster. But now switching to the Brooklyn Nets on their end. As we all know, they're getting Ben Simmons. And Ben Simmons, well, it's going to be really interesting to see him come back and play in the NBA. He's really going to have to get used to playing at the NBA speed again, regardless of him practicing or doing whatever he's doing. He's going to have to get adjusted once again to playing the basketball. And he hasn't played the entire season, for crying out loud. So he's going to definitely have that adjustment period. And now coming back, in the NBA and playing for the Brooklyn Nets, well, I think this situation for him is really going to work out a lot. Because, as we know, for Ben Simmons, in order for him to be successful, you have to have shooters around him to really unlock his potential on the basketball court. And guess what? he has a lot of shooters around him. He has Kevin Durant, he has Kyrie Irving, he has Patty Mills, he has Joe Harris. He has many guys on their roster who are great shooters and who are really going to help him in that way. But for Ben Simmons, he's the reason why this works out so much for him, because he's an amazing playmaker, as we all know, and he's a great defender. And guess what? This Brooklyn Nets team, what they needed this season, they needed defense. They need a guy who can guard multiple positions on the basketball court, and guess who does that at a very high level? Ben Simmons. This guy was the runner-up for winning Defensive Player last season. So, of course, he's going to help this team out on the defensive end of the basketball court. And look, on the offensive end, there's only a limited amount of things he can do, mostly transition plays and attacking the rim at times. But, that's really what all he can do on the offensive end. And we're really going to just have to really more so rely on Kevin Durant and Kyrie, more so still on providing the offense for this team, when Kyrie is, actually competing, So that's really the big question for them this season, is that, on paper, this team sounds really good. They have a lot of talent still on their roster, but how good Kyrie Irving is actually going to be for them, and will he continue to be a part-time player by the time of next year? There's still many questions, and that's why, in a way, you have to put an asterisk mark on the Brooklyn Nets for possibly winning and competing out for an NBA championship this season. They still brought in many great players. They have Seth Curry now as well, too, another guy who I forgot to say, who is another shooter on this team. But that's the reason, why they got him as well, because of having Ben Simmons as well on the team, which is going to help out a lot as well. So this team has a tremendous amount of depth, and they have a great opportunity to compete for an NBA championship. But that all depends on their stars and how healthy they are and when they're playing together. Losing out on James Harden on the Brooklyn Nets, look, that team is going to go down as one of the biggest what-ifs in NBA history, in my opinion. I think that Harden, what he could have brought to that Nets team, they could have won an NBA championship altogether. Those three guys, they provided basically the best offense in the game. That's what they basically relied on. They relied on those three guys putting up big numbers. But now having Ben Simmons on the team, it kind of puts off some slack on Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to not have to play such an effective level every single night for them to win. You have a guy who's going to help them out on many possessions on the court, and that's what Ben Simmons provides, and when he's actually playing. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the season turns out. But for both teams, in the long term, the Brooklyn Nets have won this trade because they got 2 future first-round picks, and they got a younger core on their team now with having Ben Simmons as well. But for the 76ers, this puts them in a situation to win now. And for James Harden, he's not going to be getting better, as time goes by. He's going to be getting older, so his game will slow down. But for right now, in this present moment, he makes the 76ers team a legitimate title contender. So that's really the end of the video today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. What do you guys think about this trade, and who is going to win in your opinion? Have a great day. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content each and every single week. Peace.